and welcome to our talk about how to make your marketplace scalable and profitable using Odoo Enterprise. I'm Simon. I'm a managing partner at Much Consulting. We're an Odoo Gold partner from Germany, and we're also, next to Munich, we're also in Lisbon and in Berlin, and we have about 65 consultants and engineers in our team. And I brought Jenny today.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm a project manager at Miomente. We do culinary events such as cooking classes and wine tasting, for example. And yeah, we're working with Much for a few years now, and that's it. We're here to talk about our success with you today.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to give you a quick overview before I start. So first, we're going to look a little bit into how marketplace business models usually work and how platforms work for a few seconds, and then we're going to jump right into one specific use case that we implemented at Miomente last year. And yeah, then you have the chance to ask as many questions as you want in the end. And we're also here at the booth if you want to talk to us later on. Okay, so let's first have a very quick look into the business model of a marketplace or a platform. So as you know, the marketplace provider, in this case Miomente, they're not directly selling goods, right? They're basically just reselling for their partners. And in this case, it's really important to handle your two-sided transactions very, very efficient. In most businesses, you sell with a lot of sale orders, and then you have a few suppliers that you get your material from or where you buy services. In this case, it's a little bit different. Basically, every single thing you sell, you also have to buy, and you have to do all of this in real time. And usually, there's a lot more accounting transactions going on than in a normal company, because you have to handle prepayments, you have kind of a fiduciary for the money, so there's a lot more stuff happening in this two-sided transaction world. And then second of all, though, you have a very big constraint, because all the stuff that's sold on your website, right, you only get a very small share. So most marketplaces or platforms get about 10 to 30% of the money the customer pays, they keep for their operations. And as you can see on the right side, if we say, for example, I have 25 million euros in revenue as my GMV on my platform, and I have a 20% take rate, so that's my share as the platform, and I have 4.5 million euros in operating costs, and there's very, very little margin left over, and the more operating cost I have, the less margin I have. And thus, if you think about most marketplaces and platforms, they only work at a very, very huge scale, right? Like, for example, Uber and ride-hauling, they have to be very, very big to cover their operating costs. But there's a lot of use cases for like mid-sized platforms, for specific niches where no big players are in. And we believe that for this kind of scenario, Odoo Enterprise is a really good solution, because it can help you to tackle the biggest problems to keep your operating cost as low as possible. So that means in the end, if you're a platform or marketplace, you just have to figure out like your product and your marketing channels. And then if you use Odoo Enterprise, you can really optimize your processes to have very little human input while still providing a very good service for your partners and your customers. And obviously, when we started the project, we looked quite deeply into like what are the main drivers of cost in the operations of a marketplace or platform. And the biggest here in this scenario is the communication with the suppliers, because as you can imagine, when you buy and sell tickets, it has to be really real time. If the partner sells the ticket elsewhere at the same point in time, you have a big problem, because then you have more people in your cooking class, for example, than you can handle. So this was the first big point. The second point was there's a lot of exceptions. So if anything goes wrong with your ride on Uber, or if you want to change the date of your cooking class, or if a product that you bought from Amazon Marketplace is not up to the standard, or you have any issue, you're going to complain to the platform, right? Not to the actual provider of the service. And for this, it's very important as a platform to handle your exceptions, especially on the customer side, as efficient as possible. Obviously, there's some on the supplier side as well. In the Miomente case, it would be like a cooking class partner cancels a class. You have to tell all the people that bought the tickets. Yeah, so this is the second big thing. And then last but not least, you have just like all the documents moving around to handle the two-sided transactions, creating an invoice for the buyer, creating a credit note, for example, for the seller. And you need to manage all of this in your accounting, which is quite complex, because usually marketplaces are quite tightly audited, and the trail from you sell something, you receive money, to the partner has to be absolutely flawless. so you don't get any issues in your auditing later on, right? Yeah, so in the end, we think that we can handle those cases very well. Okay, so next, talking very quickly about Miomente, and then we can look what we actually implemented. So Miomente doesn't run their online portal, so their online shop in a way. They're not run on Odoo. It has a lot of historic reasons, mainly that basically a custom system was developed over the last 10, 12 years, and it has loads of features that it would just take a long time to move into any other system. So right now, it's basically a completely self-developed system to provide the online shop. Obviously, working together with Odoo, we have a lot of interfaces, so we can exchange all the data, how much stock do we have for the different events, price updates, content updates. We think all of this from Odoo, and we obviously export the orders and the payments. So we have a very tight integration actually with the real platform, but obviously, especially with the things that Fabienne presented today, I think it would also be quite feasible for a niche marketplace like this to also run it completely on the Odoo website and Odoo e-commerce. Because I mean, you don't have 100 million visitors a day, right? So I think that Odoo here would still be a very good solution, and then you can get rid of the integration, which has probably been one of the biggest pains in the project so far. So in the Miomente case, we knew basically that the platform was set. So originally, there were two main things that we wanted to achieve. The first was to get the customer invoices from Odoo, because at that point, the custom developed system obviously didn't produce correct invoices, taxes were wrong a lot of times, so we really needed to make sure that the outgoing accounting processes work well. And the second thing was actually help desk. So there's a lot of event-driven things, that customer problems that we can handle quite efficiently from Odoo. If somebody says, hey, I want to be booked on a different class, you can do this directly in Odoo. If people want to cancel a reservation, for example, all of these things, you can do quite in mostly help desk standard in Odoo, by just activating all the extra features. So we wanted to have the help desk in there, because at this point there was like a Gmail inbox where, I don't know, like 10, 12 people in support were working in one inbox to manage all the support requests, so that obviously wasn't very optimal. Later on in the project, we basically went module through module and implemented, at this point, basically everything that Odoo has to offer, besides very few details that are relevant. So now we basically have the entire sale to cash and the entire purchase to pay process in the system. Also, basically all exceptions, so all type of tickets that people can do run through Odoo and are handled mostly directly from Odoo. So we have really extended a lot over time. So at this point, we have about 200 partners on the platform and 800 recurring events. So they might happen like every week, for example. So if we look a little bit more into the big topics, what we did here, in specifically to handle our three challenges from the beginning that eat up our margin, the first thing we introduced is very extensive supplier self-service or self-care. So we used Odoo Portal and Odoo Website for our event organizers, so they can log in, they have their own account, they can manage how much stock is there left, is there a price change, is there a special event that will happen soon, they can put in new dates, so they can update all of this stuff, and they also get all the information about the participants, so the attendants of our events, through Odoo Portal. They can download Excel lists of all this stuff, and they can see how much money we're going to pay out to them. So really, nearly every question that any of the suppliers would have in our case is handled directly in Odoo Portal. And it's also a lot better because usually they would call someone, they would write an email, then somebody has to look it up, send it over. So that was a very cumbersome process actually. And now it's very much automated, and we also automated all the notifications. So if somebody buys something, what are the attendees that come through Miomente for an event tonight? There's a lot of email automations going on where people are just consistently updated so they know what is going on. Because as you might imagine, these organizers of those small events, they're not super professional companies, right? They're usually like 3-4 people businesses. I think the largest partner has maybe like 6 or 8 different locations, something like that. Yeah. For the cooking classes?
For cooking classes, I don't know, honestly. I think mostly just one, maybe. yeah.
So you have to deal with a lot of small companies that are not super professionally managed, so it's really important to keep them in the loop and to give them self-service, because otherwise you're going to drown in support for your suppliers. The second thing we did is basically the same on the customer side. We really tried to get all the different use cases and customer support into Odoo, created a lot of small automations in the help desk app and throughout the systems. So basically everything you need to do: rebook somebody on a different event, credit note someone, give him a voucher if he cannot make an event, for example, if you don't want to credit note him. All of this is one click in the help desk app on any ticket, and that's obviously quite smooth, because you don't have to notify accounting anymore to send a credit note, but it's just seamless. And I think midterm, people will also have the chance on an Odoo website to, for example, reschedule themselves, to request a voucher for an event they've booked themselves just from the website by putting in their booking information and then just clicking a button. So it's going to be even more seamless. And then in the zero-touch process, we basically, as you can see, we basically use throughout all Odoo apps, we completely automated the entire data flow in the main processes, so nobody manually ever has to touch anything. And of the last point, we're going to have a quick look into how we do it in the vendor build process, how the process was before, and how we now implemented it in Odoo Enterprise. Okay, so first let's start off with the original process. So you have the event organizer, like a cooking class company, and you have Miomente. Originally, the event organizers, they note down the ticket numbers from the participants that come to the class, right? Or they collect the tickets to have the numbers ready. Then they put all of this information in an invoice. They send the invoice to Miomente. Obviously, small companies creating invoices in Word, you can imagine what the share of incorrect invoices are, like invoices that are not legally an invoice, basically. So that was the first big problem here. Secondly, there's a lot of disorganized partners that lose a ticket here and there, but then they still want their money, so you have a lot of extra support issues just on the collection side as well. Then next, Miomente basically tracked all the tickets and all the sales they did for the events in a huge Excel sheet that was actually a Google Sheet, so people can use it at the same time. And then as soon as the partner sent an invoice, there was a flag set. Oh yeah, we got an invoice. Then when it's checked, there's another flag. When it's paid out, there's another flag. So there was a lot of manual work in a huge Excel sheet that got bigger and bigger. I think it had well over like 6 figures and lines at the end. So that started to become very cumbersome. And then a large share of those invoices, as I said, have issues. So either they already built a number before because they collected the ticket, they didn't throw it away, then they invoice you again, then you have to talk to them. I don't know, a customer has actually canceled the event and you have told the partner, but then he still showed up, but he has never paid. Hundreds of different problems you can have here, and they were all basically handled manually. And then you have to discuss this entire thing, which is very communication heavy, and which the partner management team used to do. And in the end, at some point, the partner gets paid, but usually very late because you have a huge backlog of invoices and a lot of communication to finish them off. So here, the estimated average time was about 10 minutes per event. So not per invoice you get, but per event that happens. Earlier we saw there's like 800 running events. They might happen once or twice a week. So you can imagine what kind of time that takes. There were 4 case workers. They were not all full-time, but I think it was like 2.5 or 3 FTEs. They were just working on this process. It was really difficult to scale. Also was difficult to standardize because then you talk to the partner, then you want to be nice to your partners. And then on the human level, things are usually handled a little bit different. So it was really difficult to scale the process without hiring more people. And it took very long to pay out the money. And in the end, of this share, basically, Miomente got from the transaction. About 25% of the transaction cost was just sunk into this process at this point, which obviously, if you want to be profitable one day as a platform, is not very maintainable if you want to grow as well. Okay, so let's have a quick look at how we do the process now. So now we basically reverted the process. We say Miomente with their Odoo, they have the full truth about all events, all attendees, everyone that canceled in their system. So instead of allowing the customer to send us what they want, we send them a purchase order where we say, hey, this is what we believe we bought from you. You can now click this button to complain, or you can this button to click to accept it. Then it's configured. They can send us either an invoice, or we automatically send them a credit note. I think the majority of partners actually, you do the credit note way, that they receive the credit note from Miomente. So they can upload the credit note with the purchase, the invoice with the purchase order, or they automatically get a credit note. And then we know it's already correct, right? Because it's our data, it's our version of the truth, basically. And if they have accepted it, there's no checking, no communication, nothing. And we can basically instantly pay out the money as soon as we either created a credit note or do this. As you might imagine, after doing this 12 months, introducing it slowly with a few partners, rolling it out, the satisfaction of the partners was a lot higher. They get paid a lot quicker than before, which raises their satisfaction, which is good again because they might want to put more events on your platform, right? So you need to keep your partners happy. It's also a lot better because it's very transparent. They get a list of each participant for each of the purchase orders. So they have all the information to check this. They don't need to store any numbers or actual tickets anymore. So this makes it a lot more seamless for the partner to work with Miomente. And then on the other side, we reduced the amount of work, especially the manual work, tremendously. Basically, right now, if there's exceptions, there's usually an activity popping up somewhere that somebody then has to handle if there's something that gets lost in the automation. But besides that, it is very, very little manual work. The number of complaints on the purchase orders is also quite low. So we didn't need any more staff, and the platform is still growing, which is the first big plus. But the second big plus is the partner team that used to actually try to focus, the partner team that actually was mostly discussing invoices with the partners. They now have a lot more time to acquire new partners and extend the business with the existing partners. And secondly, there was so much time left now in accounting that a lot of things that an external tax advisor used to do are now handled internally, which obviously saves a lot of cost. So overall, the cost in the process was reduced by about 75%, and the partner satisfaction is now seemingly 100% with the partners. So thanks a lot for this so far. Now, if you have any questions to us, or obviously to Jenny, you have a few seconds to think, and in the meantime, I'm going to ask the first two questions. All right, so first of all, pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
What other processes besides the ones that we saw? What do you think is the biggest value add-on for you at Miomente next to the partner billing process?
Well, it's hard to name one because so many of them add so much value, actually. I think especially one of our newest modules, so to speak, is very helpful for us, which is the B2B automation, which automatically matches leads with partners who can fulfill them and sends out the emails to them automatically, and also creates invoices and stuff. So, but we also do have, as Simon already said, customer support, all the accounting stuff, and event management, of course. So yeah, we're trying to move as much as possible into Odoo, actually.
Cool. And for you personally, what do you like? What do you like best about Odoo so far?
That it's incredibly customizable. So whatever we want, we just tell you guys, and you create it for us, basically. And not only that, but we can also actually do a lot of it ourselves without mentionable coding experience or knowledge. So yeah, it's really cool, and it's also very, very fast, and everything is in one place, which is always good, so you don't have to switch around.
Oh, thanks a lot. Okay, is there any questions from you?
What is the weightage of customization you have done on the top of Odoo?
Sorry?
What is the weightage of customization have you done on the top of Odoo?
How much customization we did? So I don't know it exactly in lines of code, but I think it might be around 10,000 lines of code in total, but the majority actually goes into the integration with the custom shop system because it has a very, it didn't really have an API when we started. So I would say maybe about 5,000 lines of code for the process side and 5,000 for the integration roundabout. So it's actually not that much.
So the website part is a different framework. You are just connecting bridges to the Odoo.
Yeah, we just have a REST API type of interface with the shop system, basically. Right, is there any other questions? All right, then thanks a lot for your attention. If you have any questions, you can just meet me right after the talk. or come to our booth. We are right on the entrance, actually. When you walk back from here to the booths, we are on the right-hand side. Thanks a lot for your attention, and I'll hope I see you later.